It's Friday, everyone. What do we do on Fridays here at the Hint Hive? That's right, we smash the patriarchy. Hey there, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Hint Hive, amplifying women's voices. I'm your host, Kelly Hint, queen bee of this hive, as well as a psychotherapist, life coach, and your feminist hype woman. This is our space, a badass, empowered hive buzzing with real talk and revolution. And today, we're diving deep into a topic that affects us all: sexual autonomy, the right to reclaim control over our bodies and desires. So grab your tea, coffee, or wine, and let's get into it. We're going to unpack what sexual autonomy really means, why it's under attack, and how we can reclaim it, with facts, strategies, and of course, a little fire. Okay, so first things first. What is sexual autonomy? It is the power to make decisions about your own body and sexuality without external pressure, shame, or coercion. It's the freedom to decide if, when, and how you want to engage in sexual activity, as well as the right to say no. It's about agency and consent. Historically, society has fought tooth and nail to strip women of that agency. Think about the legal and social constructs that have tried to control us. Chastity belts in the Middle Ages, the 19th century marital rape exemption laws, don't even get me started on that one, and today's restrictive abortion bans. These are all tools of oppression aimed at silencing women and controlling their bodies. And here's an important fact. Sexual autonomy is not just about sex. It is about bodily autonomy as a whole, reproductive rights, access to health care, and the freedom to live authentically. It is the foundation of self-respect and self-determination. So, why does all this matter today? Let's talk about why this conversation is so critical right now. As of 2025, over 55 countries still have laws that restrict women's reproductive rights. That's millions of women who can't access safe abortions, contraception, or even basic health care without male approval. And here in the United States, where I'm at, more than a dozen states have severely limited abortion access since the overturning of Roe v. Wade in 2022. And for many, this means traveling hundreds of miles for care, not just abortions, for women's health care. And that, I'm sorry, it's a luxury that not everyone can afford. I get so sick and tired of hearing people say things like, oh, well, it's up to the states. It's a state's rights. If you don't like it, just move. Or if you don't like it, just go to another state and get the operation performed. Well, hello, privilege. Not everybody has the ability to do that. With the restriction of abortion rights, there are women dying. I mean, did we get transported back into the 50s and 60s? And not all of these women are seeking abortions. Many of these women who are dying are women who are having miscarriages and being turned away from hospitals and doctors' offices because the doctors are too afraid to treat them. Because in some of these states, doctors can be charged for performing an abortion if they can't prove that it was a miscarriage. What in the actual hell is happening here in the U.S.? And, of course, sexual assault remains a rampant issue. According to RAINN, which is the Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network, every 68 seconds an American is sexually assaulted, and the majority of these victims are women. Consent education is still not mandatory in many U.S. schools, perpetuating cycles of abuse and misunderstanding. And just during that last couple of sentences, somebody was sexually assaulted. And if that sexual assault results in a pregnancy, in many U.S. states, nothing can be done about that. And of course, let's not forget the stigma around women's pleasure. Research shows that nearly 60% of women feel ashamed of their sexual desires, thanks to a society that paints us as either saints or sinners with no room for nuance. I'm sorry, but sexual autonomy isn't just a feminist buzzword. It is a human right that is under attack, and it is up to us to fight back. And how about those cultural norms that shape our understanding of sexual autonomy? Growing up, many of us were bombarded with mixed messages, like, don't be a prude, but don't be too easy, and dress modestly or you're asking for it. I was even told, when I was younger, not to put myself into, quote, certain situations. Otherwise, it would be my own fault. No wonder I never told anyone about being sexual assaulted. For all those people who have these crappy thoughts and words about women who don't come forward, there's a reason. There's a reason that they're not coming forward, and it's not because they're just waiting to paint a lie and drop a bomb during a political race, for example. It is not okay for some women to come forward. I was one of them, and it makes me angry because I never did anything about it. I never said anything to anyone. And I won't. It's too late for me. There's nothing that could be done to anyone who ever did anything to me. But you know what? It still freaking happened to me, and I would not appreciate someone calling me a liar because I didn't do anything about it. You haven't lived in my shoes. You haven't walked in my shoes. You haven't lived a day in my life. And so therefore, you do not get to judge me for not coming forward. Does any of this sound familiar? Because these conflicting expectations, don't be a prude, but don't be too easy. They trap us in a double bind where no choice feels like the right one. Damned if you do, damned if you don't. And consider this. In many cultures, women's virginity is still seen as a measure of their worth. Concepts like purity culture tell us that our value is tied to our ability to deny our desires. This is not just outdated, it is damaging. It teaches us that our bodies belong to everyone but us. Now, I will emphasize that if you choose purity, that is fine. That's sexual autonomy in action right there. But you do not get to impose your choice on others. There's a lot of that going around lately. There's a lot of people out there that think that their way is the only way, and if you don't believe the way they believe, then you are wrong. There's something wrong with you. I'm sorry, but maybe everyone needs to get together and sit down at the table and talk about their reasons for the choices. Maybe we need to do a little bit better job trying to understand other people's choices in other people's lives. Because I'm not seeing a whole lot of empathy going on in this world anymore. And it makes me really sick, especially when it comes from people who have, how do I say this without offending half my listeners? When you have a foundation of love and you are supposed to love others, that is what you believe, kind of like the teachings of many religions, right? We are called to love one another and care for one another. And I see a lot of hypocrisy around that. And that's all I'm going to say on that subject, because I don't have the words, the patience, or the ability to explain myself any better without digging a deeper hole. So let's talk about the media. From movies to ads, we are bombarded with unrealistic portrayals of women's sexuality. Women are often depicted as either objects of desire or gatekeepers of morality, roles that erase our agency and complexity. It's not a black and white issue. Sex is not a black and white issue. Yes and no is black and white, right? Yes, you can touch me there, or no, you can't. But when it comes to people's desires and interests and presentations, it's complex. It's not black and white. And you know what? That's okay. Shockingly. All right, now that we've named the problem and explained it a little bit, let's talk solutions. How do we reclaim sexual autonomy in a world that's hell-bent on denying it? How do you tell people it's okay if you don't want to have sex before marriage? Or it's okay if you do? The first step, educate yourself, because knowledge is power. Familiarize yourself with your body and your rights. Books like Come As You Are by Emily Nagoski, I saw her at a conference one time. She was fabulous. And The Vagina Bible by Dr. Jen Gunter are great starting points. Explore resources that empower you to understand your anatomy, your pleasure, and your boundaries. And of course, speaking of boundaries, because we often do here at the Hint Hive, step 2 is to set boundaries and enforce them. This is key, because boundaries are an act of self-respect. Whether it's in your relationships, at work, or in your social circles, remember, no is a complete sentence. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your choices. Let that resonate. Believe that. Marinate in it. You do not owe anyone an explanation for your choices. In step 3, speak out against shame. Because shame thrives in silence. The more we share our stories and normalize conversations about sex and autonomy, the weaker shame becomes. Join supportive communities like our Facebook group, or work with a therapist to unlearn harmful conditioning. And hell, if you're in New York, we can work together on that issue and many others in therapy together. Or if therapy is not what you need and you just want a coach to help you sort through and clarify your goals around sex, then we can work together no matter where in the world you happen to be. And finally, step 4, advocate for change. Collective action is powerful. Support organizations like Planned Parenthood and the Center for Reproductive Rights. Volunteer donate, or simply show up to rallies, because change happens when we demand it together. And for anyone out there who still thinks that Planned Parenthood is just there for performing abortions, you are so misinformed. They do a whole lot more than that. And speaking of advocacy, I am so passionate about empowering women that I am looking for ways to kind of amp this up even more than my job as a therapist, my job as a coach, and hosting this podcast. I'm currently looking for local opportunities to help women. And in my search for local opportunities, I've started to think about getting even more creative and maybe doing some online stuff, maybe having a support group for women where all of you who are listening, no matter where you are in the world, we can connect on Zoom or another platform. I'm thinking about this because I want to live the advice that I'm giving to people. I want to, my authentic self is to be an advocate for people who don't feel that they have a voice. And so I really want to live that in every area of my life. So I'm really, really excited about some of these ideas that I've had and that I'm currently researching. And of course, I will let all of you know if anything like that comes to fruition. All right, now for the juicy part that has gotten me in trouble on TikTok. And by in trouble, I mean receiving a lot of hate in my inbox from men. Owning our desires. So let's get real. Sexual autonomy isn't just about saying no. It's about saying yes to yourself, your desires, and your pleasure. And here's a shocking fact. Studies show that the orgasm gap is real. In heterosexual relationships, men are significantly more likely to orgasm than women. This is not just about biology, people. It's about a cultural bias that prioritizes male pleasure over female pleasure. So, reclaiming your autonomy means taking up space even in the bedroom and demanding that your needs be met. It's about rejecting the narrative that your pleasure is secondary or unimportant. It's your body. Own it, love it, and celebrate it. And, you know, in my TikTok video that I put out, I encouraged women to stop faking orgasms. That was my opening line. Ladies, stop faking orgasms. And I told them, I said, it's important to communicate. It's important to communicate about what you like. Talk to your partner. If you feel either that your partner isn't meeting your needs or you don't know what your needs are, have the conversation with your sexual partner. And if you don't know what you want, and this really got me the hate, you are able to explore your own body and figure it out. Or talk to a therapist or a coach. Talk to friends if you feel comfortable enough doing that. If you don't know where pleasure is on your body, it is totally fine to figure that out on your own. I mean, hell, there are toys that can help you out. And for everyone that I just lost, please stick with me. I'm not telling you that you have to masturbate or that you have to get sex toys. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just simply offering it up as an option to people who may need a little bit of extra help, who may need to try and figure out where the best place to direct your partner would be. There's no shame in that. And unfortunately, I tie this back to not just societal standards and all that nonsense, but media, movies, right? Like masturbation is this horrible, horrible thing, or it's something to be made fun of, and usually it's at the expense of men. I will say that I've seen one too many movies, where men are, caught masturbating and it's a big joke, haha. When in reality, it's not a joke. It is a natural thing that people can do if they so choose. So again, I'm not telling everyone to go out and, I was just going to say something very vulgar, but I remember that I don't want this episode labeled as explicit, so I'm not going to say it. But if you want to explore your body, you get to. That is what sexual autonomy is all about. Figuring it out on your own, doing whatever you want to do that doesn't hurt other people, or choosing not to do something. That's what it's all about also. All right, I'm going to stop talking now before I do end up saying something that I shouldn't. All right, so before we wrap up, let's move on to the quote of the week. This one is from Barbara Kruger. And Barbara says, "Your body is a battleground." Oh, sister, I couldn't agree with you more. Your body is your power, ladies. It's your power, your home, your temple, and yes, as Barbara says, also your battleground. But remember, you are the one holding the sword. All right, Hive Queens, here's your challenge this week. Do one thing, just one, or more if you can manage it. Do one thing that makes you feel empowered in your body. Maybe that's, dancing around in your underwear. Maybe it's taking yourself on a date. Or maybe it's just saying no to something that does not serve you. And hey, let's keep this conversation going, okay, gals? Join our Facebook group and share your wins, your struggles, and your truths. We have some great ladies in that group. It's a very supportive community. Please come join us. The link is right in the episode description here. Let's reclaim our bodies and desires together. And of course, if you found this episode helpful, share it with your crew. And do not forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss an episode. Until next time, stay bold, stay badass, and keep amplifying your voice. This podcast is powered by Kelly Hint Empowerment Coaching, as well as Kelly M. Hint LMHC and The Cranky Counselor. To find out more about coaching services, head over to CoachKellyHint.com. If you'd like to know more about the psychotherapy services I offer to individuals within the state of New York, you can check out KellyMHint.com. And if you'd like to learn more about aromatherapy, you can check out TheCrankyCounselor.com.